They're here. Hello, Music Multiverse listeners. Welcome to Beyond Your Radio. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're watching us from. We're glad you're here with us tonight's Panelist favorite show. Now, before we get into tonight's favorites, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the party, pal. Click the subscribe button, maybe? Go ahead, make my day. How about hitting that like button or making a comment or two? The power of Christ compels you to. If you haven't guessed it, tonight's episode is all about favorite soundtracks of all time. Now, it can be motion picture, it can be video game, it can be musical, but I got a feeling we're going to stay in that wheelhouse of the motion pictures. Two of our panelists will not be joining us tonight, but I may, in fact, show you one. Jeff is unfortunately at an Everly Brothers concert in Las Vegas, and he misjudged the time zone. It's apparently 3 hours behind, and I think I should have known that. So tonight's panelists, Jeff Young and my wife, Sue Kuligowski, who just dropped in at the last minute to save the day. And let's start with you, Jeff Young. What's your number 5?
We're doing fives, or are we doing honorable mentions or no?
Oh yeah, we'll do the honorable mentions at the end.
Okay, fine.
You can do your number 5, then we'll go to my number 5, Sue's, whatever.
So my number 5 is from a TV show. It's called Chef Aid, the South Park album. So it's from '98, and it's a number of songs from and inspired by the show for season 2. Other songs on it are somewhat independent from South Park, but the album was released, where they had the second episode, I think, was called Chef Aid, which is a takeoff of Farm Aid, Live Aid, all that stuff.
Right.
Features many of the songs that appear in the recording. So the performers, pretty big list, include 22 tracks. Primus, there's one with DMX, Crystal Method, Old Dirty Bastard, and Ozzy Osbourne on the same one. Rancid, Master P, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs with Lil Kim and System of a Down. Then there's Perry Farrell, Wyclef Jean, Elton John, Devo, Rick James with Ike Turner, Ween. Then you got Joe Strummer with Flea and Tom Morello, and then you got Dennis DeYoung of Styx. So pretty good collection there. Not much more to say about it. It's just
Are
fun.
those all original tracks, or are they covers or of their own stuff? Or?
Original, I think, yeah.
Okay. While I'm not familiar with that, I do remember them doing that, and I remember hearing some of it, but I couldn't, off the top of my head, remember any of them. But I know Morello and Elton John, and it's funny that was like kind of should let you know why these guys are making the money they're making for.
And I think for the most part, it's got to be all these performers are just fans of the show. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It seems to be timeless now, because now my kids are watching and quoting. Although they told me when I first saw it, Dad, how could you watch that? Okay. So we'll move to Sue Kuligowski for her number 5.
So my number 5, I guess I'm probably dating myself. I mean, it was actually younger when it came out, but the Grease soundtrack. So because it takes me back to my youth, I didn't see the movie when it first came out, but I think it was my sister Debbie had the album, so we used to play it on the record player. And it had 23 songs, I think I saw on there. And it's just got Grease, obviously, Grease Lightning, Summer Night, Beauty School Dropout. It's a fun listen. For anybody who has never seen Grease, watch Grease if you're younger, or if you're old like me, watch Grease again. But they're just good songs. They're fun songs. It was a fun movie, and it just brings me back. So Yeah.
Kind of wonder how kids would think of that today when they saw that. What
I
high
don't
school
know.
looked like back then.
Well, I don't know if it looked like that back then either, but I wasn't a big fan of when they were doing the musicals. I feel like everybody tried to get on that bandwagon and I couldn't get into it, but Olivia Newton-John, of course, and John Travolta are irreplaceable. So
Yep.
Yeah, John Travolta originally played that on Broadway, but he didn't have the lead male character. He had a side character. And he said he watched the person play that so much, he just figured out he could play that perfectly.
yeah, and you did. Cool. I did not know that.
Okay, so my number 5, and it just all of a sudden like hit me. I had done this list already, and I thought I was safe. I was wrong. I started thinking about albums I play more than anything, and this cassette, I'm surprised, still plays today. And that is Cocktail from 1988. You know, Mr. Mission Impossible. I mean, these are all songs that are iconic, right? To some degree, like Ry Cooder's doing an Elvis Presley song. You got the Georgia Satellites are on there, and then of course the Beach Boys doing Kokomo. So just had everything on there. I think Don't Worry, Be Happy's on there, and this is an album not only that it's fun to listen to, but it takes you back to the movie when you hear it, because it's not just a movie about pouring drinks, but it's how your work consumes you and the choices you make, and it's still, for me, that's still an album that still gets played, and even though it's a cassette and I have to find something to put it into, that's my number 5. Back to you, Jeff, for your number 4.
I'm going with a musical, an animated musical, South Park, again, bigger, longer, uncut soundtrack from '99. Only the first 12 tracks on the album actually appear in the film, and the remainder are inspired by the movie or most of the other acts performing alternative versions of the same songs, or some of them maybe just played during the closing credits. Most of the songs were performed by the 2 show creators, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, and then there's Mary Kay Bergman. And other performers include Isaac Hayes, who also plays the character Chef, but Michael McDonald, Kid Rock, Violent Femmes, RuPaul, Geddy Lee, and Alex Lifeson perform. And the thing I like about this is the original songs are very good. They're funny, but they're well done just as songs. And of course, obviously, Parker and Stone went on to do actual musicals, but it's just it's fun, it's creative, and I just I just picked those 2 from South Park just because they're just plain fun.
Yeah, I just remember us going to the theater to watch that, and just realizing it was a not a spoof, but a homage, or
everything
weird,
from Blame Canada to Kyle's Mom's a bit,
Kyle's Mom's a big fat bitch. I just they're all like ripoffs of like Les Mis and other musicals, and they do it so well, and you don't even realize it until you're deeper into it. But yeah, that's still a classic. The movie itself, you tune out after about the first 30 minutes because it's maybe a little bit long, but yeah, that's one I still play from time to time. Sue, to you.
So this will be short. My number 4 was also Cocktail. So yeah, I just like the movie, and we probably both listened to it a million times, so stuck in my head.
Yeah, it gets stuck in your head. The hippie shake. And okay, so my number 4 is should probably come as no surprise to people because they keep telling me I look like Robin Williams. But mine is Good Morning Vietnam from 1987, 1 year earlier. not only is Robin Williams all over this with his zaniness and his portrayal of Adrian Cronauer, the songs are well placed, and where else can you get Game of Love, which was can't even know the name of the band, the Marionettes or some odd name, but this is where I first heard the band Them in their Please Baby Please Don't Go, and that kind of started me on that blues trail down in that era. Not to mention, they got the Castaways, and of course it ends on Louis Armstrong's What a Wonderful World. So still one of my favorite motion pictures of all time, and definitely one of my favorite soundtracks.
Yeah, I should watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got what, Forrest Whitaker's in it, a bunch of other cameos. Jeff, I'll let you tackle number 3.
I picked a movie from 1994 based off a comic book, The Crow, original motion picture soundtrack. So that has starring Brandon Lee, son of Bruce Lee, and also a notable character you would recognize would be Ernie Hudson, who's also big in Ghostbusters. So the album features covers, and it's got like Nine Inch Nails. They cover Joy Division's Dead Souls. Pantera covers Poison Idea's The Badge, and Rollins Band covers Ghost Rider by Suicide, which is about a Marvel comic book character.
Yeah, that's a great cover.
Like the song, the bands on here are like The Cure, Machines of Love and Grace, Stone Temple Pilots, Nine Inch Nails, Rage Against the Machine, Violent Femmes again, Rollins Band, Helmet, Pantera, For Love Not Lisa, Jane Sibrey, Jesus and Mary Chain, and a couple others. My Life.
Jane Sibrey didn't do Puff the Magic Dragon on that one, did she?
No, she did It Can't Rain All the Time, and then they also have just more what was it? They have an orchestral version of that can be heard multiple times in the background of the film.
Okay.
But Rage Against the Machine re-recorded a 1991 B-side, Darkness of Greed, and renamed it Darkness for the soundtrack. And then My Life with a Thrill Kill Cult, they re-recorded a song of theirs called Nervous Zions and retitled it After the Flesh for the film. And they were also the band that was in one of the major scenes, like a nightclub shootout. They were the band on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The Cure wrote their song Burn exclusively for the movie. And then Stone Temple Pilots, they originally intended to re-record a song off their Mighty Joe Young demo tape. It was titled Only Dying, but instead they chose to submit the track Big Empty once Brandon Lee actually was killed on set during production. The inclusion of songs like The Cure and Joy Division are notable only because they influenced the actual maker of the film. Like they actually the bands are actually present in the comic book. Parts of their songs are referenced or seen on posters or a whole page dedicated to some lyrics. And then other music in the film, which is not included in the soundtrack, is on a different album, which would be the Crow original motion picture score. So that's all just the original, more orchestral music and some of the electronic and guitar elements that they used as well. So they're really more like basically like two soundtracks. One's the score, one's the artists.
My Life with a Thrill Kill Cult. I have like a cult following of them. I have a lot of their albums, and it's just wicked club craziness.
Yeah, the only single that was off of that album was Big Empty from Stone Temple Pilots. None of them else were like released as singles. Mm-hmm. And honestly, for as much as I like a lot of the songs from those artists, Machines of Love, Grace, even The Cure, but like the none of them you'd say are their best songs, but to put them all together, pretty good.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Sue, you're number 3.
And I had also thought about The Crow. It's a good movie. My number 3 though is Dirty Dancing. What was it, like 1987? And of course, Patrick Swayze kind of led that whole pack, and I think he sang She's Like the Wind. Everybody knows I've had the time of my life. It's been played for just about every every event that's happened since. Hungry Eyes, Eric Carmen. Just every song on it is good, and it was just, I mean, it was just a really good mix, I think, for the movie itself. So yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely the soundtrack of that generational time, right? 1987 was it was a great year for motion picture soundtracks and motion pictures. I found that there were in my 40 that I came up with 87 and 88 and 89 were in there quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 3 is the only one in the 2000 on this show. We could go and do this again, maybe. So Glenn Hansard and Marketa Ergolova were, probably not well-known individuals. Glenn Hansard, maybe because he was with the Frames, who were hailed probably as to become the next U2, although that did not happen. They were in a movie called Once, which Glenn Hansard wrote songs for, and Marketa Ergolova wound up being the actress and singer-songwriter as well, and to some of that degree. It won Motion Pictures original song that year, and it was also one for the original screenplay. So this is about two people that kind of are musically inclined. Glenn Hansard is basically playing guitar on the side of the road and making his living sort of that way. And he just loves music, and he starts this relationship with Marketa Ergolova's character, and the story is beautiful, but the music is everything to the movie. It's so moving. They would wind up becoming a team as a band called Swell Season. They released 2 albums. Sue and I did get to see them play at I can't think of Asbury Hall. And it was a really good night. I will also tell you this: if you're interested in this band, Swell Season, this is folk rock, we'll call it, very low key, piano and on slight guitar and a little bit of drum, not very heavy, just harmonies, beautiful harmonies. And the two are together again, going on tour to celebrate the 15-year anniversary of the record. And they actually have a new song out that kind of is the closure of what was the name of the follow something? I can't think of the song, but anyway, this is like the follow-up to it. Is a closure. Glenn Hansard is now married to somebody. He was with her, I think, at that time. And their relationship sort of might have fallen apart. But beautiful nonetheless, and one soundtrack that I always go back to. Would probably be a surprise for people to know that, I like the lovey-dovey Once soundtrack.
It was a good soundtrack.
Yep. Jeff, you're number 2.
Number 2, going to 1993, the movie Judgment Night. So that movie stars Emilio Estevez, Cuba Gooding Jr., Dennis Leary, Jeremy Piven, Stephen Dorff, and if you want them, Everlast. It paired hip hop artists with modern rock acts, and it was kind of designed to capitalize on the emerging popularity of rap rock. And there had been some successful mergers prior to that, but no one had yet thought to do an entire album based on getting established rap and rock artists in the same studio. So, you got Helmet with House of Pain, Teenage Fan Club with De La Soul, Living Color with Run DMC, Biohazard with Onyx, Slayer with Ice-T, Faith No More with Booyah Tribe, then Sonic Hill with Cypress Hill, Sir Mix-a-Lot, I like Big Blood's that song with Mudhoney, Dinosaur Jr. with Del the Funky Homo Sapien, Therapy and Fail, and then Pearl Jam and Cypress Hill together.
Yes, it's a great soundtrack. One of the best of all time.
Yeah, and so Faith No More and Helmet and Sonic Youth were the first 3 bands to show true interest in the project, and that actually kind of gave more credibility to the project, which really helped others come on board. And then there was a collaboration that did not make the album. between Tool and Rage Against the Machine.
Oh,
And the
wow.
song was called Can't Kill the Revolution. But neither band was happy with the way it turned out, so they didn't want it on the album.
And there's nowhere to get it? Have you tried
Well,
to
they
look it up to see?
It said it's never been officially released, but has spread through some bootleg networks, which I don't know which those are. But maybe it's out there. It's called Can't Kill the Revolution.
I'm going to look for it for
Yeah,
sure.
just try to find it.
But yeah, good movie, and the soundtrack is really interesting.
Yeah, every time I think of that movie when I'm driving to someplace I don't know where I'm going. Don't want to get lost. Wind up in the wrong neighborhood. Sue, you're number 2.
My number 2, I went with Robin Hood and Thieves. It was a 1991 release starring Kevin Costner, Morgan Freeman, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, Christian Slater, Alan Rickman, Geraldine McEwen, and a bunch of other big stars, small stars. It was a good movie. It was a fun movie. I want to say we saw it at the drive-in, if I remember correctly.
Possible.
The soundtrack, again, it fit the movie really well, which is why it kind of stuck in my head. And the original score was by Academy Award nominated composer Michael Kamen, who did Die Hard, as well as the Grammy-winning song Everything I Do It For You, Bryan Adams, which everyone sang for the next decade. So just a good movie, good songs, fun movie. And I still like it. And I still like the movie.
Yeah. Michael Kamen was a hell of a conductor and producer. He did a bunch of soundtracks, and like you said, Die Hard and everything he touched was excellent.
Yeah.
It made my list as well.
Oh, did it? Not your top 5.
Nope. Nope, it was on my list. Didn't make top five.
Where did it fall? You have to share now.
It fell at like 10 or 12, somewhere around there. 10, 11, 12.
Okay.
Mine was based on really the fact that I loved it, but do I listen to it? Do I go to grab it? And these I go to grab, and I continually listen to them. So my number 2, sort of along the same lines as The Cocktail, is the Lost Boys soundtrack.
Yep.
Another cassette that I'm still cannot believe plays to this day. One of my favorite performers of all time that I've never seen is Michael Hutchins of NXS, and in this one he's in it to win it twice. He's with his band, so to speak, in one song, and then another one he joins Jimmy Barnes, Good Times, and Echo and the Bunnymen, Lou Gramm, Roger Daltrey's doing Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, which at that point was probably the best version of that song until
Michael,
yeah. Why can't I think it ends with an M? Yeah, his last name's with an M. George Michael.
Yeah.
George Michael. George Michael came along and did it. And then of course it ends on Thomas Newman's To the Shock of Miss Louise, which is instrumental. Obviously the movie, if you haven't seen it, this is 1987 again. Kiefer Sutherland is a young man in this. He's playing a vampire who's they're all off their rockers. But it's a darker movie, but the soundtrack fits so well. I don't know what else to say about it. Just something I always put up.
The girlfriend / love interest, the girlfriend of Keith, or the love interest of the other main character. She actually showed up like 20 years later in a couple Seinfeld episodes.
yeah.
Okay.
Remember the episode I Can't Spare a Square? She was in that one.
Oh, okay. Was she? Okay. Of course, you got Diane Wiest in it too, right? Playing the mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Corey Haim, right? And Feldman.
They were both in it. Yeah.
Yep.
The Gories.
If soundtracks right in that wheelhouse of the 80s, late 80s, getting a little dark. I'm surprised Depeche Mode didn't get on that soundtrack, but whatever. Jeff, give us your number 1.
Number one's a musical. Animated.
What?
Nightmare Before Christmas soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
The Tim Burton produced stop motion animation 1993 fantasy musicals. The 15th soundtrack album by Danny Elfman. So this has obviously Danny Elfman as Jack Skellington, Catherine O'Hara is Sally the Ragdoll built like Frankenstein's monster, and it was nominated for 93's Golden Globe and for Best Original Score. But it's just the reason I picked this number one because everything is original and every song fits perfectly into the musical. It's done really well. Like it's just, and it's something that you're going to see for the rest of your life. They're always going to play it during Christmas, between Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's always going to be played, and it's just an excellent movie, and it's got excellent music. And you know, there is a special edition of the soundtrack that was released with bonus disc that contains covers of five songs, actually 4 songs. This Is Halloween was done twice on this disc, one by Panic at the Disco, one by Marilyn Manson. Sally's song was done by Fiona Apple. What's This was done by Fall Out Boy, and Kidnap the Sandy Claus was done by a band She Wants Revenge.
Yeah, I know that one.
Even aside from that, just excluding those last 5 bonus songs, like just every song in the movie is great.
Yep. Watched that many times.
Christmas favorite.
Well, all year long favorite for a few years with the girls.
Oh, the girls, yeah. Stu will go for your number one.
So my number one is Dances with Wolves.
Another Kevin Costner.
I know, I didn't even realize that. 1990 Academy Award and Golden Globe winning. Kevin Costner was Lieutenant Dunbar. Mary McConnell was Stands with a Fist.
Not Dunbar.
Dunbar. And Graham Greene is Kicking Bird. And then, just in my opinion, a great cast. It was a great movie. I watched it a lot during college, during little breaks. So, just the more I watched it, the more I realized how beautiful the music was, and I still enjoy it today. And I always want to go watch it, but it's a long movie, so you have to have time for it. Yeah. So, but beautifully done.
Okay. Well, my number one is Prince, but it's not the album you're thinking of. Mine is not Purple Rain. Mine is Batman. Why is it Batman?
Good one.
Pretty good.
I still think it's the most outrageous soundtrack ever created by one individual for a motion picture. It's almost like he did the album first and they made the movie around what he did. Or somehow he was there while they were filming it and decided to somehow play along. This was actually Prince's 11th studio album.
And another Tim Burton film.
Yes, another Tim Burton film. Correct.
Connections.
There you go. There are all kinds of publishing right issues because you got Warner Brothers and Prince. You know, this is probably a mess in the grand scheme of ownership and stuff. But this was his first number one since Kiss, when he did the Bat Dance. It's not music. It's not radio friendly. It's chaotic. Electric Chair. I mean, he's a guitar virtuoso in this extraordinaire. He's a madman of a composer. He's got Sheena Easton singing with him on a couple of tracks, but he's got Candy Dulfer doing saxophone. She was a nobody at that point. And then she's got her own records and album deals. You know, Burton said it was just the luck that he managed to get him to do this. You know, it is by far one of those you don't have to think much. You just let it go. It's like a dance meets hard rock meets metal. There's all kind of solos, whether it's outstanding keyboards or wild out guitars. And one of the things that's kind of cool about too, Prince actually dubbed in the movie lines into some of the tracks, which makes it, you can hear Michael Keaton and some of the other actors playing. And of course, it's almost as if Prince himself said, I want to be the Joker in all this. Obviously, having his love for purple, I guess that kind of fits. So, on that note, do we have any honorable mentions?
I have one
You have one. And what would that be?
from TV show in 1985, Miami Vice. So, it's got like Jan Hammer, who does the main theme and more. I mean, it's one of the only TV shows I can remember where the theme to the TV show got radio airplay. And then you got Phil Collins on the air tonight. Glenn Frey has two tracks. Smuggler's Blues, You Belong to the City, both great songs. Shaka Khan has Own the Night, and Tina Turner did Better Be Good to Me. But the reason it didn't make my top 5 is because when you consider, first of all, there's a lot of Miami Vice soundtracks. But each season had between 45 and 60 songs in each season. Why are there only like 9 or 10 on an album? And, it's typical. There's a lot of soundtracks that don't reflect really the show or the movie. Like there's some movies and shows that have so many good music, but they don't put them on the soundtrack. Either they don't pay for the rights or they can't get it or whatever. Who knows why? But this falls into that category. Like a lot of these songs are great today. Like you'll always hear Phil Collins on the internet. You'll probably hear these Glenn Frey songs. Even Tina Turner song, Better Be Good. You'll probably hear forever. But they stand out. But okay, so that's 4 songs on an album when you have 45 to 60 songs in a season. So I just like too many not on the soundtrack for me to use it.
Yeah. So I have 2 honorable mentions. I should have had the CDs out. I don't know why I didn't grab them. But number one, in that moment when you're in the theater and this movie starts, and this is all mostly orchestral instrumental wickedness. It's The Matrix. I've never heard anything like that before in my life in a motion picture. It set the tone. It goes along with the stop motion weirdness or however they shot that movie. And of course I think the propeller heads are in there as well. Say again?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. During the big shootout scene in the bottom where they just decide they're going to go in guns blazing. And oh my gosh, just forgot the other mention. Oh, The Bodyguard.
Yeah.
Whitney Houston's vocals in that are absolutely ridiculously good.
Another Kevin
Costner.
There you go. Kevin Costner just attaches himself to fantastic sound. I'm going to go back and listen to The Guardian. Maybe that's good. I have no idea.
If we could put Kevin Costner in a Tim Burton film, who knows what we get?
Oh my God, what would we get, right? How do we know he wasn't already in one doing a voiceover? But yeah, The Bodyguard has also Joe Cocker, Sass Jordan. And just that one to me was always like something I'd pull out. Even, obviously that one song did tremendous business. Sue, do you have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, other movies that kind of came to mind or that I've heard lately, going back again, like nostalgic, was Footloose. Slightly more recent was The Lion King. But then I'm kind of like I guess I like instrumentals and the background music. And honestly, when I think about it, so many Steven Spielberg movies come up for me. I just like what he does. And Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I don't know why, but it's always stuck with me. I love the music in it. And it's just background kind of sound, but it moves his movies forward, I think.
Even a lot of the orchestra pieces in like the Star Wars first 3 films.
Yes.
Pretty good. And I remember I had a little 45 that was like a disco version of some of the Star Wars songs. It was like some of it's just fun kid stuff, but it was, it was just such a phenomenon.
Yeah, there's a couple of mentions of those kind of people. And, obviously Howard Shore doing Lord of the Rings. That how do you wrap your head around that many movies?
Mhm.
What was that? Oh, and I believe on most people's lists, from a standpoint of orchestrated motion picture soundtracks, the number one is always Schindler's List. So,
Yeah, that was
you know, I think Shawshank comes up on there too.
And there's
couple-
movies like Indiana Jones, you could hum it, and so someone next to you would automatically know.
Right.
Oh, the most recognizable, the Magnificent Seven, Jurassic Park. You know, the
Mhm.
minute you hear those things, you know
Yeah.
What
exactly.
about the Blues Brothers too?
Oh, you're killing me. We're doing part 2. All right. Well, I want to thank my panelists for doing this. Soundtracks are so important, beautiful, and memorable. Whether it's Am I a Muppet or a Man, to the crescendo of Ennio Morricone's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or something as simple and haunting as the background of Halloween. It's a connection of sound in a moment in time, and I'm so glad we got to share some of these with you. And in what will be my last movie quote of the night, Music Multiverse listeners, hasta la vista, baby.